Hey everyone, so we're going to be doing an analysis of a multifamily home that I looked up on MLS. We're going to do two of them, and I'm just pretty much comparing multifamily homes to single family homes. Now, go check out my last video on my single family analysis. And yeah, so we're just going to start on this property that I found on MLS, first of two. So this one, I'll just share some information on it right now. So I found a pretty relatively cheap fourplex actually in the city of Windsor, Ontario. And I'll explain why I picked that city. Some people are like, it's not the best place to invest, and I somewhat agree, but I'll explain my theory behind it. So this place was assessed at, according to taxes, was assessed at $190,000. Now, the listing price is $160,000, and it seems like they're a motivated seller. From what I could find, it seemed like it'd been on the market for at least a few months. And so I kind of figure that if I were to throw in an offer, I could probably get it for $155, maybe $150. But this is just a rough example. So asking $160, valued at $190, fourplex. Okay, so we got four units, four separate entrances. So four entrances. Let's see, some other just basic information that I looked at when looking at this property. So I was kind of skeptical at first. The picture, it looked like it was kind of a little bit beat up, not really beat up, but like it looked like it was an older building. Not much work had been put into the exterior. But then I looked at Google Street View, and it was actually in great shape, actually better shape than I thought. And the neighborhood looked a lot better than I thought it would too. Excuse me. So yeah, it just looks like a well-maintained kind of older neighborhood on the west end of Windsor. It's like 5 minutes from a university and like 7 minutes from downtown. So it's in a close proximity to where you'd want to be in that city. But again, it's not like downtown, right? So some other things, it's almost completely renovated. Three of the four units have had, just based on the pictures, like I would definitely live there. Like it's almost as nice as this place, honestly, that I'm my apartment right now. So they did a good job. It looks like it might be a fix and flip, but saying that, they have tenants in there, so maybe it wasn't. But anyways, so just background information, it was renovated. It has land beside it too, enough to add, it could potentially add another building. That's how much land there is beside it that comes with the property. It's probably, I don't know, it's enough to put in a small building, or at least an add-on onto the current building. So maybe put in an extra few bedrooms in the future, like down the line. Just another thing to think about. So it has a decent amount of land. Okay? So this seems like too good to be true, right? $160,000 fourplex. There has to be something wrong with it, right? So we're going to keep looking. I'll keep looking. I'll keep sharing what I've found. So anyways, we're going to move on here. And that's just the background info. The very, very just raw data that I found. So some other things about only 40% of the people in the area rent. That's good and bad, meaning that there's less competition for rent space. Like if you were to rent out the place, less competition. But it also means that people might not want to rent there, right? Renters may not want to stay there. So it's kind of this trade-off you got here. As I said, it's 5-10 minutes from downtown. So we're going to work out some math here. We're going to do some math here. So remember, we're just going to say we could get it for $160, even though we could get it for less, $160,000, okay? So it's 20% down, right? 20% down, which equals it's $32,000? Yeah, it's 32. It's $32,000, right? I'm not crazy. We're going to go with 32. So you need a $32,000 down payment. So I'd have to work for a little bit longer than I would imagine to get it, but very doable this year. 4 units. 4 entrances. So here's what the units look like. It is a bachelor. So it's a bachelor apartment. It is a 2-bed, another 2-bed, and a 4-bed. So what they say it rents for, and it's always a little bit exaggerated in my mind. So this one is $450 a month. This one is $600. This one is $750 because this is the only one that's not renovated. This 2-bedroom one, and this one is $800. And so the potential rent here, is it still going to fit on there? It's not going to fit on there. But the potential rent, I guess I should say, I'll write it here, is $2,600 a month. Can you see that? $2,600 a month. Okay, so that's good potential there. Very, very good. So we're going to break down some more math here. Actually, so what's interesting is that this is actually kind of, these rents, they're actually, compared to the average rent in the area, they're actually cheaper than the average rent in the area. They're about $50 to $150 cheaper per unit. So they actually might not be lying about their rent. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of trusted this listing, because they actually posted lower rents than in the area. So $2,600 potential rent. The mortgage, so we're going to write mortgage. We're just going to say you can get one for 3.5%. You can get it for cheaper, you can get it for more, but we're just going to say 3.5%. So that's going to work out to about $600 a month in a mortgage payment. Seems really good, right? $600 a month for a 4-plex, that's pretty good. So I was able to find the taxes, and the taxes are $275 a month. $275 a month. Again, so that's not bad too for a 4-plex. So $275 a month. Insurance, we're just gonna, it's probably more, but from what I was able to find, it's $150 a month. I know it's probably closer to $250, but in certain cases you can get it for that rate. So $150, and so these are the minimum expenses that I've covered in my last video. These are, if everything else is perfect, these are the minimum amount of expenses that you could see on this property. So we're going to see $1,025 a month in expenses. So that's for this property, that is okay. For any other property, that is a lot of money. But for this one, it's okay. So we're going to move on to the more complex calculations and some additional expenses. So keep that number in mind, $1,025 a month in primary expenses. All right. And there's a beeping noise. Okay. So repairs. So this number, I couldn't really get it's just a rough estimate for this one. So I'm just going to assume that it's $250 a month. That, roughly 10% of maximum rent potential. That's what I went from. So it's $260, but $250 is a round number. So 10% of maximum rent equals $250 a month. And it's an older building too. That's why it's 10% and not 5%. So vacancy. Here's why I thought that this was a better investment than most people think. The vacancy rate in Windsor 2 years ago was like 11%, and now it's 4. It's 4.1 to be perfect, but it's 4% now from what I could find for this area. So taking that into account, the vacancy is going to, let's just say, to cover our ass, it's $100 a month, okay? $100 a month for vacancy. Even though Realistically, that number is going to be way higher, but we're just going to call it 100 for now because it's a general formula, right? So, and then we're going to need property management because it's 5 hours away from my place. So, property management, I could find one for 5%, which is a great deal. And that equates to 5% of monthly rent, so it's $130 a month. So again, that's a great deal, and they handle a lot too. They just don't help with getting tenants too much, from what I could find. So these are just this is just some general information. So total expenses, if you include this and you include the last expenses on top of that, total expenses for this property equals $1,500 a month, roughly. Okay? $1,500 a month. So remember, our rent, is it still on the board? Yeah, you can still see it. Remember, our rent was $2,600 maximum per month. $2,600. So, you know, if you were to just do it like this, do this normal formula, you're making $1,100 a month, right? That is not the case, right? This is just the maximum potential income, realistically. $1,100 a month. So, but again, the potential in this property is good. So, this is where the cap rate kind of screws you over a little bit here. So the cap rate, as I mentioned, so cap, it's the net income without it's the net revenue without accounting for the expense of the mortgage. So it's the income minus expenses, but the mortgage doesn't count as an expense, if that makes sense. So this number is $2,600 minus $900 in expenses times 12 months, and we put that over the value of the property, which is $160,000. So let's see, doing some math here. That cap would put the cap rate at 12.75%. Which is great. That is amazing. So you could see that the potential on this property is pretty high, but realistically, it's you're not going to get that much money. So we'll do one more calculation here. So we did the cap rate, so we're going to check out the return. Okay, so the return here, you will be, let's just say your maximum net revenue is $1,100 a month. Right? Remember that. $1,100 a month in terms of net income. You multiply that by 12 for 12 months, and you put it over your down payment of $32,000, your initial investment. And so your return, theoretically, in 1 year is completely out of whack. It is 41.25%. Okay, so this is why I don't like formulas in some cases. It's for properties like this. Now, by far, this property has the highest income potential that I well, actually, no, the next one I'm going to get to has maybe more income potential, but if you were just to do a general formula, like with cap rates and rate of return, and sometimes you're going to get numbers like this that are just completely out of whack. If you get a rate of return on this property of 5 to 10%, I think that's pretty good. I think that 8% would be good for this property, not 41. And the reason why is because you're going to have vacancies. I know that the vacancy rate in the area was 4%. Realistically, you're only going to be renting out 3 of these places at a time, maybe even 2. And if you're renting out 3, you're going to be making probably like a 10 to 15% return, which is great. You're probably going to be renting out 2 to 3 places. So if it's 2, you might just be breaking even. You never really know. So this is why I don't like formulas all the time, because if I were to just go by this, it'd be like, oh, this is the greatest property of all time. And it clearly isn't. So you'd be taking home $13,000 a year, with the maximum potential of this property. But realistically, if you took home like 2 to 3, then that's more realistic, just based on the area too. Because Windsor, even though it's been improving lately, it's still not a great area to be in.